last week we started, right, this idea of meaningful presentation. Thank you for your feedback on your student cards. It was helpful for me to see what you thought about this idea, right, of meaningful. So yes, as a university student, I really hope you can make a presentation that is like, wow, right, kind of, not just, yes, everybody knows this already kind of situation, yeah? However, I do realize that it's not easy, right, to find the beef. So today, what I'm going to do is actually do a presentation, and but mainly focusing on giving you beef, right? So it's not actually a perfect presentation, in my opinion, right? I would do it a little bit differently, but I want to really focus on giving you, on showing you what the beef looks like, okay? So the topic of the presentation is actually sustainable energy for all, right? And the key word here is for all, right? And the reason why I care about this topic is in this question: what do you do every day that doesn't require electricity? Right? So just take a minute to think about it. When don't you use electricity? Or put it that way, right? Right, it's not an easy answer, right? Because so many things are connected to using electricity. So yes, electricity is important, but we need to be able to get sustainable energy, right? Because, as you know, there are limited energy resources, so we need to figure out how to change our economies from relying on limited supply to what is unlimited, and in this case, sustainable. So the reality is that we are okay, we need to change our ways because it's not sustainable, but on the other hand, you have people who just don't have access to electricity at all, right? So I guess they don't have the problem, right, of switching to sustainable. However, they have other problems, right, connected to not having access to electricity. So to give you an example of a band, Linkin Park, who really cares about the world and the environment, they decided to create a campaign called Powerless, right? So I'll show you the video, and then we can talk about it a little bit more. And you have one more task. If you look in your booklet, you will see that I took out some of the information in there just to help you pay attention and stay focused. So please write it down so that you have the information, because otherwise you might be a bit lost, yeah? So I'll start my presentation by explaining what the problem is, right? And as I've explained last week, make sure you cite your sources, right? So that people who listen to you can trust you. So according to the World Bank, in October 2018, there was about 1 billion people, right? So it's 13% of the world population. So 1 billion people didn't have access to electricity. And if you could understand what Linkin Park said, they said 1.3 billion. So we are making progress, right? Things are getting better and better, but still 1 billion people is a lot of people with no access to electricity. Furthermore, 3 billion people, so that's almost 40% of the world population, to be able to compensate, right, the fact that they don't have electricity, they use wood or other biomass, and I'll explain the other type of things they use to be able to cook and heat, right? Especially heat water, to be able to boil it so that it's not dangerous to drink, and also heat their house, right? So they use wood and other biomass. So that part is the thing that I would like to help people understand better, right? So my audience, you, I would like you to understand better what that means. When you have almost 40% of the world population which uses wood and other type of biomass to cook and heat, it's not always easy to imagine what it means in everyday life, right? Numbers are not easy to understand, and what does that really mean, right? If you have to use wood or other things to cook and heat, what does it mean? So one thing that I have seen throughout my career as a presentation teacher and also as someone who gives a lot of presentations is that try to bring the information to life, yeah, being specific, obviously, we've talked about that, but also showing the implication. What does it mean, right? If you say that, what does it mean? What is the implication? So that's what I'll try to do, right, for you today. And I want to focus on something that I'm sure everybody can relate to, is cooking meals. Right? So even if you don't cook yourself, you've seen your parents cook, and that's a very important task because that's how we stay alive, right? By eating the food that people cook for us or that we cook ourselves. So cooking meals, when you don't have access to electricity or gas, looks like this, right? Usually it's in the open or inside the house with the windows and doors open because of the smoke. And you have to find something to burn, right? To be able to create the heat to be able to cook. In this picture, it's a bit dramatic because it's the children who are cooking. I just wanted to find a picture that showed, the reality of this situation. Our reality is much nicer, right? It's in the kitchen, we turn on the stove, turn on the electricity, it's easy, right? We don't really have to think too much about it. So yes, in developing countries, because usually the situation represented in the top picture is in developing countries, cooking meals is not an easy task. First you have to find something to burn, and then you have to start the fire, which if you do barbecues with friends, you may have noticed is not that easy actually to get fire started. However, what I want to focus on, the 4 points I want to focus on regarding the problem of cooking meals when you don't have access to electricity and you have to use biomass, are these 4 points. It's time consuming, it's bad for your health, it's expensive, and it's bad for the environment. Right? If we start with time consuming, I found 3 examples to try to help you understand how much time it takes for people to gather the wood or the thing to use to burn to be able to cook. So my reference is the FAO, which is the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Right? So very trustworthy. You can listen to what they have to say. So there was a study near Lake Malawi, and so it's probably in Malawi, which is a country in Africa. And they surveyed 30 households, so 30 families. And from that study, they found that to be able to get fuel, in that sense, wood, right, because we're not talking about oil, people had to walk 2.1 kilometers to be able to get it, right? So it took about 63 minutes every day to be able to get that wood so that you can cook and you can boil your water. So it takes time, right? It takes a time, and this time is not used for usually children to go to school or women to be able to work, right? It takes so much time to do housework that they cannot do any other work for the family. Another study, this time it's a bit bigger because it's 3 villages and it's in northern Kenya, so again in Africa. And there the women spend an average of 70 minutes, right? So a little longer than near Lake Malawi. And the last example is in Tanzania, again in Africa. So here, it would be better if I could find examples from another part of the world, because maybe you start thinking, oh, it's just a problem in Africa, and it's not just in Africa, right? Southeast Asia has the same problem. South America is starting to have it more and more, right? So it's not just a problem in Africa. So I will try actually to find other examples outside this continent, right? But again, in Tanzania, the round-trip distance, so going back and forth, was between 1 kilometer, not too crazy, but as you can see, up to 10.5 kilometers, right? And 10.5 kilometers is a long distance to walk. I walked about 15.5 kilometers on Sunday, and it took me 5 hours and a half, something like that, right? So it takes a long time to walk these distances. So yes, when you don't have access to electricity, it takes time to gather the wood or other products to be able to burn it. Now, my next problem is it's your health, right? So I don't know if you've seen in the video, but when people are burning wood on an open fire, it has a lot of smoke. Right? And as you probably know, smoke is really bad for breathing, right? So it creates respiratory illness, so breathing illness. And according to Smith and his colleagues, young children living in a house using biomass fuel, for instance wood, have 2 to 3 times more risks of acute respiratory illness, so ARI. Acute means really bad, right? And as an example, I wrote down pneumonia. So pneumonia is when you have water in your lungs and it's really hard to breathe. And some people die of pneumonia because it becomes so hard to breathe that your whole body suffers. A little bit more on the respiratory illness. You might wonder why I talked about kids. So women obviously have similar problem, but kids are more fragile, so they get sick more quickly. And the reason why they get these problems, as you can see in this picture, is that they are very often with their mothers, right, when they're cooking. The moms strap them to their back because they can't let them by themselves. And as they're cooking and bending over the fire, the baby's right behind. So they get the smoke and the baby gets the smoke, right? So that's why I was focusing on children. And actually, according to the World Health Organization, the amount of smoke from a stove, right, so this or just an open fire, is the same thing as 2 packs of cigarettes per day. Right? That's a huge amount of smoke. And as you probably know, 2 packs of cigarettes a day gives us cancer, right, in developed countries. So they are putting themselves in really bad situations, right, because of the lack of access to energy. So it takes time, it's not good for your health, and it's expensive on top of it, right? So on top of it, you have to spend a lot of money to get all these bad effects. In this case, I'm focusing now on Haiti, which is in the Caribbean island. I'll show you a map later. And according to the Huffington Post, in 2012, a family could spend an average of 40%, 40% of their income. So let's say if you work at a part-time job and you've worked a lot this month, maybe you made 80,000 yen, yeah, about average. 40% means that you're giving 32,000 yen just for that. So you're left with little money to be able to pay for everything else. So it is an expensive necessity. They need it, but they have to pay a lot of money to get it. And the last one, it's on top of it bad for the environment. Because maybe you realize wood have to cut down trees. Maybe you know that people use also charcoal. You know when you do a barbecue, the black things you use in the barbecue, that's charcoal. But charcoal is wood. It's just wood that has been burned slowly until it becomes black, right? Because then it burns better. So charcoal is wood. So people have to cut down trees to be able to have energy to make meals. And just to give you an idea, again for Haiti, that's the country I'm focusing on now, in the 1920s, the forest represented 60% of the land, right? More than half. It's like something you can imagine because Japan was very similar, right? 60% forests, only 40% without forests. Well, nowadays, the forest only represents 2%, right? They've cut down almost the entire forest, covering it's an island, right? The island, well, their side of the island. So yes, people need charcoal, so they cut down the forest. And that's what I was saying. This is a picture, so just in case you don't know where Haiti is, right? It's very close to Cuba and the Bahamas. So further north, it's Florida, right? To give you an idea. So that's where the Caribbeans are. And yes, Haiti is half of an island. The other half is the Dominican Republic. And the reason why I'm telling you this is to show you the difference between a country that found a way to provide energy and a country who didn't, right? The difference, the different impact on the forest. On the left side is Haiti, and then on the right side is the border, well, is the Dominican Republic. It's the border between the two, right? Same island, but one country couldn't provide energy, so they cut down the forest. The other country could. The forest is still there. So there is a huge impact on the environment when people don't have access to energy. So I have explained to you my problems, right, with this topic. And yes, I have a solution. The reason why I have a solution, I don't want people to be depressed. Right? When they're done listening to me, I don't want them to feel, oh my God, this is horrible. Right? I want to give them something to do about it. So my solution is International Lifeline Fund, right? The acronym is ILF. And basically they started their program in 2006 in Africa because they wanted to help those women who had to leave their village, their town, because of violence, right? So they were focusing on a few countries like Somalia, Darfur, Burundi, Kenya, and northern Uganda. And in Africa, they created a stove that is made of completely natural things, right? So it's organic materials, and you can find them around you. Right, so it's a clay stove. So it's super cheap, $2 to $3 each. Even poor people can afford this, right? So it's not an expensive solution, but a very cheap one. And it's amazing because the amount of wood that you need is reduced by half, 50% less. and the smoke that it creates is more than 50% less. Right? So a good, cheap solution, right, that they came up with. And here is a picture of that stove. It's right here, in the middle with all these women. As you can see, not much smoke, and yet it's working. Right? So people are coming up with ideas to help, right, in these situations. You cannot do that everywhere, right? Because if you don't have the organic, the natural elements, then you can't do it. So actually for Haiti, because Haiti has had the earthquake in 2010, and the country has been having a lot of problem recovering, so they are created a stove that's a metal stove, and people can carry it, right? So portable. It's not in the ground. You can actually carry it with you. And so it's been used in Haiti since the earthquake. And I'm sorry, it's been very hard finding a good picture, but it's right here, yeah, under her arm. So she can go ahead and carry it if she needs to move. So, if you don't have to use so much wood, then you don't have to spend so much time gathering it, right? So you have actually more time to study, or maybe to spend time with your children, start a business, right? So you can actually have a better family life, or maybe make a little bit more money, right, on the side. Less smoke means the family's health is better, right? Everybody, the mom, the children, are in a better state. And also, especially if you look at Haiti, because you need less wood or less charcoal, you also spend less money if you have to buy it. Right? So what they've seen is that in Haiti, 20% more income. Right? So they don't spend as much money on getting something to burn. And with that extra money, sometimes it's enough to be able to send the children to school. Or they can also start small businesses. This is a very important aspect to get people out of poverty, small businesses. Or buy more nutritious food. And this might be, how can I say, something you're not aware of, but in poor countries you have two problems. Quantity, they don't have enough food, and quality. The food is not good enough to give them the minerals, vitamins, etc. that they need, right, to live a good and healthy life. So if you have more money, you can buy more nutritious, so good quality food. So last but not least, cooking stove which use less charcoal, they will protect forests, right? If you don't have to cut down as much, the forest will be protected. And if you combine this, using less and planting more, you can change the problem, right, of no more trees. So if you do reforestation, planting trees that have been cut down, and in Haiti, the project is called Haiti Restoration Partnership, actually forests can grow back. This is what Haiti is starting to look like. Right? The trees are growing back because people don't need to cut them as much, because they don't need to use as much wood for their stove, and they are replanting them. Right? So combining the two can be a full solution. Through this presentation, I wanted to help you understand how you can find the beef. Right? One way is to being specific. We talked about that last week. And in this presentation, I also try to show the implications. What does it mean, right? What does this situation mean for people every day? And the other thing is solutions. Not only you don't want your audience to be depressed by your topic, but you also will create a more meaningful presentation if you do give solutions. What can you do? How do you do it? Right? Being specific in that too is a very important part of your presentation, right? So solutions.